So today we're going to be talking about end user computing, specifically as it pertains to Horizon version 6.0. A lot of you have seen the press, you've seen the stuff coming out, in the blogs and the wires and all of this good fun stuff about, VMware. I think the term they used, which I liked the best, was the term unleash. And I think that's really fantastic. I think it's really fitting when we talk about Horizon, especially version 6. End user compute is something that is near and dear to my heart, has been for a very long time. Having been an early adopter of VDI when it first came out, when nobody thought it would go anywhere, to doing it for pre-sales and doing it for post-sales, and I always loved the architecture of it. It's just a fantastic platform, and it's so exciting to see the advancements and the maturity in Horizon 6. So what are we going to be talking about? So things that we're going to be looking at here in Horizon 6 today. We're going to be looking at some of the new enhancements. We're going to be talking about one that's kind of on the tip of everybody's tongue, application streaming, RDS hosted applications. We're going to be looking at some of the integrations into Vcenter operations management, talking about some of the new things that we're going to be doing with Horizon 6 on deck now. We're also going to speak a little bit to the workspace enhancements, as well as what we're doing with things like virtual SAN and XenApp integrations, et cetera. I do have some demonstrations for you today. Given the number of people that we have on the line, and to make things easier, I went ahead and did all of the demonstrations. So I've got several demonstrations we're going to walk through, where I've actually done these on my system, and we'll be able to kind of see how all of this stuff works. And then most importantly, once you know how everything works and how fantastic it is, we're going to be talking about the PP&L of it all, right? The pricing, packaging, licensing, what do you get, when does it happen, and, what are the differences, so you know how to position this with your customers. So like I said, today is going to be kind of at the 201 technical level. We're not going to dive too deep, but we are going to talk about some cool stuff, look at some cool stuff, so that we can get excited, know how to communicate it out to the customers, and then, very importantly, know how to position it with them and kind of what solves what business need. So 6.0, what is new in Horizon 6? This one's kind of one of my favorites. In Horizon 6.0, we are introducing the idea of extending the cloud pod architecture. So what does this mean? The idea is this, that we want to ensure that every user has as clear and as seamless and as low a latency, highly performant type of experience with their virtual desktop environment or as is possible, right? When I used to do deployments, you stand up in a boardroom and they would ask, what is the acceptability criteria for virtual desktop? My answer was always the same thing. The acceptability criteria for an end-user compute deployment is directly equal to the number of people who say it doesn't stink, right? That's what it is. It's all about ensuring that the users don't even know it happened, right? End-user compute is not necessarily about reinventing the wheel, right? It's about enhancing the wheel. It's about making it easier to deliver. It's about structuring the delivery of content as opposed to completely creating an upheaval in the user's life. End-user compute in its purest form should kind of seamlessly fold into their daily life, and that's what you're going to see with the stuff that we're doing with Horizon 6. So we talk about the pod architecture. The big improvement that's been made is our ability to create an Active Directory replication between points or sites, right, as we talk about the pods. That means that when a user logs in let's say, New York, right, he's going to get access to the machines that he needs. And that New York site is going to have knowledge of the machines that he's accessed. But then let's say he goes to London, or he goes to Belgium, or he goes to Florida, right? Whatever the load balancer says that is going to be best based upon the geography that he's living in, now the Active Directory is able to keep up with that. So we actually have replication inside of the Active Directory, inside of the end user compute platform. This is a little bit of a deeper technical architectural kind of change, but I think it's very important for us all to carry that message out, because what this means is now when you're talking about doing multiple site Horizon deployments, you now have a bunch of really cool technology standing behind you to help make these big deployments that much easier. Single namespace, having the Active Directory information replicated across all of the connection points, and being able to have like a global entitlement layer, right? So that everything is being managed across the world from a single point of administration. That, to me, having been a former administrator, is very, very exciting, remarkably powerful, and it also means that when we have less stuff being tweaked, that we have a higher opportunity for success. And I think that's just fantastic. As I mentioned in the quick introduction, this has been one that's been kind of on the tip of everybody's tongue, right, is hosted apps with Vue. For a long time, we've had a couple methods of delivering applications. Method one, you could install the application right on the desktop, right? That was the easy one. That was the one that everybody did kind of, 1.0, right? Then it became the idea of thin apps, a thin application that could be, delivered by a USB stick or, a file share, or pushed down to the desktop, all sorts of things. What that left, however, was kind of a little bit of a hole, because, the thin app application, if it was a Windows app, it had to run on a Windows machine, right? Even though it never installed, it still had to run there. So it kind of left all of the Mac users and the Android users and the iOS users kind of out of the fold. And so that created a little bit of a chasm in adoption. Now with hosted applications, you're able to bridge that chasm really effectively and really simply with great ease of architecture. Effectively, what's being done is we are leveraging kind of the classic, RDS server architecture to allow for streaming of applications from those servers, which can be virtual, right out to whatever the target may be. And that could be an iPad, could be an Android device, could be a Mac, could be, Windows device. Doesn't matter. And we're going to see a little bit of a demonstration of exactly how that works. And I was actually able to pull together a little iPad demonstration for you today as well. So what's it going to look like? Again, I think the big thing here, like I said before, users come to work, and the one thing we know from their use cases and how they interact with their material is they really don't care. They don't care how they're getting stuff. They just know, I need to get into Visio. I need to get into PowerPoint. I need to get into Access or Internet Explorer or Safari or whatever it is. And as we look at more and more of the adoption rates and more of what mid-market is doing, you're seeing these highly heterogeneous environments where people are walking down the halls with tablet devices. People are viewing applications on their phones. Just last night, one of my colleagues asked me for a set of files. I was on the road. When I got to the parking lot where I was going, I was able, using Horizon, to send him the file that he needed before I went into the building, right? Even I, knowing how all the bits work, when it comes time to use them, I'm really not thinking about that. I'm just thinking that I need to move this over there, right? And I need something easy that lets me do it. So when we look at the hosted applications, the big idea here is to make it seamless. We want it to be an experience where the users aren't having to really feel all the change, right? And so this is very important for us, and that's something that you're going to see. In addition, like I said, beyond just the desktops, when we talk about tablet devices, right? VMware understands there's kind of two very clear camps, and both of them are equally passionate. There's the Apple camp, and for iOS, and there's all the people with little stuffed versions of Andy the Android out there on their desks. And so with that, we've ensured that we have adoption across both of these platforms. This is also a great way to inject and to ensure that this is part of the conversation. I always used to tell my salespeople when I was doing pre-sale stuff out in the field is, well, how do we start the conversation? I said it's really pretty easy. You walk down the hall with a cup of coffee inside the client's office, and you wait for the first executive that's walking in the other direction that's carrying a tablet. At that point, you know that they have at the highest tier of their adoption chain, they have started to think about BYOD. And at that point, if BYOD is in the conversation, then Horizon needs to be the follow-up. And now when we talk about the RDS hosted application integration, all the more reason that there's no reason for them to say no, right? You're in a space at this point now that it fits every single customer. And that is really, really fantastic. In addition, we have new integration and support inside of Virtual SAN. So inside of Virtual SAN, one of the more important things, and some of you have been on some of my vSAN calls, and you've seen and you're relatively familiar with the fundamental concepts, but for those of you that aren't, we'll kind of do a quick recap. The big idea and the reason that Virtual SAN is creating such a tremendous splash inside of the industry is because it allows you to take localized disks on the servers and to be able to create a virtual storage area network without the necessity for LUNs and all of the additional administration surrounding normal SAN environments, and to be able to present that, and especially to be able to present it with an architecture that is optimized for things like read-intensive workloads. And it would just so happen that one of the most read-intensive workloads out there today is virtual desktop and user compute. So our new integrations and hooks into Virtual SAN allow you to present a really clear solution for your customers. Best of all, Virtual SAN is exceptionally scalable. You can start with as little as 3 hosts, each containing a minimum of 1 solid-state disk and 1 spinning disk, 1 regular hard drive. That's all each host needs to get started. But they can grow up to a capacity of 32 hosts inside of a cluster, supporting north of 4 petabytes of information. And I just need to repeat that because sometimes I don't even believe that I said that word. Over 4 petabytes of data and supporting over 2 million IOPS. And the best part is it can grow granularly. If a customer just needs to start with 3 hosts, they need to start kind of pokey little puppy, but then they want to add 1 more and another, and then they have a big growth spurt, they need to add 3 more hosts, that's fine. You can grow it that way. Or you can grow it all at once. So there's a ton of granular scalability, which means that when you're having a conversation with your customers and you're talking about end user compute and the conversation loops around to storage, that it's no longer going to come to a grinding halt. Because now you have a tremendous different avenue that you can inject into the conversation to give them new alternatives and new ways to think about how they're going to align storage with their end user compute solution. we all know there's multiple parts to Horizon. We've talked a little bit about the Horizon View component, which is directed toward application virtual desktop. And when we look at what the user interacts with, what you're seeing here is Horizon Workspace. So inside of Horizon Workspace, see the user has all sorts of different things they can access. They have desktops. They've got maybe thin app applications, right, that I told you about before. They have SAML-based applications like Google or ADP or Salesforce, those sorts of things. They may even have non-SAML applications, things like Facebook, LinkedIn, right? Things that might be localized to their company that they want to be able to control and give a clear portal for their employees to use. And now, with application streaming, they're going to have their RDS-hosted applications living there right side by side with everything else. But in addition to all of that, to having the virtual desktops, and the hosted apps, and the thin apps, and the Google apps, and the SaaS-based applications, like I said, things like Axiom or Salesforce or ADP or whatever it is, they're also going to have the ability to see their Zen apps listed there as well. This means that when you have customers that maybe they already made a big investment and they've got a Zen app farm standing up already. Inside of those environments, it's not necessarily easy to have a clear transition. And for any of us that have ever dealt with either trying to upgrade a Zen app farm or being able to move applications into it or out of it, while it's not impossible, it can be relatively intensive. And so because of that, the one thing we did not want to do is make Horizon an all-or-nothing solution, right? This is about leveraging current investments. You'll hear that repeatedly when anybody talks about VMware, because it's true. We want to leverage the current investments that they have, leverage the current talent that they have, and then expand out from there and make everything that we do truly ecosystem friendly. So to be able to have Horizon hosted applications from RDS, thin apps, Citrix Zen apps, all of these things living side by side and creating a seamless experience back to the customer is of the utmost importance to us. In addition, we've also seen that there's been a huge tidal wave of adoption around Office 365. Personally, I think it's a great platform. One of the hardest and trickiest things for a lot of customers when it comes to something like Office is in the administration of the back end. All the Exchange servers and the SharePoint servers and the project servers and all of this stuff. Office 365 gives customers, especially around mid-market and entry-level enterprise, the ability to have all of these really cool, productivity suite tools without having to have a huge infrastructure on the back end. But one of the things that is tricky about it is it uses a very unique form of authentication. So from our perspective, what we've done is we've adopted and made allotments for that form of authentication. So we now also have the ability to include Office 365 inside of our apps. But it's more than just providing all this stuff. Once you provide all this stuff, somebody's got to make sure it stays working. And, one of the hardest parts for administrators, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The hardest part about, issue resolution, it isn't ever in fixing the problem. Heck, most of the time fixing the problem is easy. The hard part is finding the problem. Finding the problem sometimes can be like a needle in a haystack full of other needles, right? Where everything looks like something else. Everything is something else's problem, and you're never really sure, what's going on. I'll tell you one time I was doing, I got called up. It was a 25,000 seat virtual desktop deployment on a non-VMware platform. That's all I'll say. And I was sent up there because they said, well, it's kind of making a weird noise. We're not sure what's going on. And so fixing the problem at the end of like 8 weeks was really about 4 mouse clicks. However, finding the problem, because it spread across 2 different continents and like 6 or 8 different bits of network, took forever. That was the hard part. The hard part was not fixing where the needle was. It was about finding the needle to begin with. And so because of that, we're making all sorts of new investments and new advancements when it comes to vCenter operations, especially as it relates to Horizon 6. Most specifically, we're integrating support for the RDS hosted application. So in addition to seeing their Horizon servers and their desktops and all of this sort of stuff, they're also going to be able, down to the process level of the application, they're going to be able to see the performance of the RDS hosted application either through the pool or at the individual layer. Right? This is tremendous. In addition, we've increased scalability up to 25,000 users with just one deployment of Vcops for View. So what does application streaming look like in action? Well, let me show you. So this is my desktop, and I've logged into Horizon Workspace here. You can see I've got all sorts of different things. I've got Notepad here. Now that is a thin app, so it says, well, it's not going to run on my Mac. Well, that's okay. We understand that. And then I've got my SAML-based applications, my regular apps like my Horizon files. But let's say I want to open something like Microsoft Access. You'll see here that when I click on it, it's going to automatically launch the Citrix viewer. Now, if that viewer is not installed, it will prompt me to download it immediately. So even a user accessing for the first time is going to have a seamless experience. And so this is real time, and you can see that I'm still using my Mac environment, but I'm running Microsoft Access. And this is being streamed seamlessly over to my desktop, and I can interact with it at the speed of the server at which it's running on. So this gives me kind of that clear way to not have to, open up another session and do something else creative in order to get where I need to be. Internet Explorer has probably, kind of been, at least when out in the field, kind of been a pain in my side for a long time because, there was always that web app. There was always that one web application that the customer had that needed IE5. Right, or IE6, or something like that. And because of that, there was always, roadblocks, stumbling blocks to it. You can see here that I was able to launch Internet Explorer, again, seamlessly inside of my Mac desktop and able to interact with it and then go right back to using all of my native Mac applications. So if we look here at what we've got, right, like I said, up in the left corner here, we've got our regular Horizon files, right? Things like the Dropbox type functionality that you've come to expect. We've got our SaaS applications, things like Axiom or Salesforce or whatever it is. We've got our thin app applications, something like Notepad, right, that would, try to run on top of the system. In this case, I, purposefully chose an application that wouldn't run so you could kind of see the difference of what they're going to look like based upon the system that they're viewed on. And then we also have applications that are being delivered through the RDS hosted platform. And those are the ones that are just running on a virtual server, and we're able to stream directly to my desktop. One of the ideas that got me really excited when they said that RDS hosted applications were going to be available was an application that I've missed for so long and I've been such a big fan of for a tremendous amount of time, and it's probably saved my bacon more times than I can count, was something like Visio, right? And one of the things that I always, missed on my Mac was, having something like Visio. Well, now I can have that. But in addition, they said, well, it's going to be available on iOS. So I was like, so what you're telling me is I can run Notepad on an iPad. So what you've got here, this is a screen capture of my iPad. You can see I'm logged into the same environment. And I need to stress here, folks, this is beta code, okay? What you're seeing is beta code. And I asked it to run Notepad. It launches the receiver, and it's going to show me Windows Notepad. And I'm going to be able to interact with it just as I would any other application on my iPad. So, we've now got that truly ubiquitous, presentation of apps across the board, all right? Now, I understand Notepad itself isn't very exciting unless you're a coder. So let's take a look at something like, running that same version of Access. So I click that, and now I want to run Access on the iPad. So here I am. I'm sitting in the airport, and I'm able to, all puns intended and applied, get access to Access from my iPad on airport Wi-Fi to finish up whatever I need to do to get back moving, and I don't have to carry a whole bunch of other devices. Folks, I don't know about you, but this is a very, very exciting time when we talk about content delivery to customers. And to be able to demonstrate this to an audience of, CIOs and end users is going to be tremendously impactful. But oftentimes with a lot of this stuff, there's always going to be the naysayer in the back of the room, and that guy's usually going to be the admin because he's going to go, wow, this looks really cool, but what am I going to have to do? Now I'm going to have all these people trying to track down all these applications or doing all this stuff. What about me? What happens when the call comes in and they say, this is kind of slow, or this is, where's my icon for this or that or whatever it is? What do I have to do? Well, like I said, we have deep, deep integrations with things like Vcenter operations. So let's take a look at the experience for a user. Now, again, this environment that I'm going to show you does not have the RDS-hosted applications in it, but I'll kind of show you where that'll live. So this is Vcenter Operations Advanced. And inside of Vcenter Operations Advanced, you've got your regular vSphere infrastructure. You've got your View infrastructure, right, for things like your virtual desktops, et cetera. And, right out of the box, we give people, all of these plugins, all these cool new tabs and dashboards that they can look at individual desktops and pools of desktops, and they can even drill down to a VM. If we were to have a case where a user said, hey, my VM seems to be running a little hot, or it seems to be doing a lot of stuff, or it's lagging a little bit, then the administrator can quickly find the virtual machine, or like here's one that's got a pretty big bar on it. Let's double-click into that guy. And we can see what that individual virtual machine is experiencing. And keep in mind, you're looking at statistics on a machine that was more than likely created on the fly, right? In addition, there's going to be the capacity to have new dashboards, like I said, for things like the RDS-hosted applications. So administrators will be able to look at not necessarily pools of virtual machines and pools of desktops. They'll be able to look at application pools. They'll be able to go down to the process level and figure out not only what is this machine doing, but what are the applications doing that are being streamed to it. In addition, they're going to get things like what-if type analysis. If their boss comes to them and says, hey, I think it'd be a really good idea if we streamed AutoCAD. Now they're not going to have to tell them it's a bad idea. Using the what-if tools inside of vCenter Operations for View, they'll be able to show them it's a bad idea, right? And so this means that the communication lines between administration and executive management for technology are going to improve because they're going to have a clearer way to, communicate their needs their potential results, and kind of everything in between. Now, so if we look at that from, what the support team is going to be dealing with, now we've got the administrator. We've got the guy who's charged effectively with, setting all this stuff up. And, for a lot of solutions, this may be, the time when, you say, okay, I need to send you away for 2 weeks, Mr. Admin, because, you're going to need to, sit with your head down in a shell terminal Linux book, for about 80 hours to understand how to set all this up. Well, the beauty, again, behind the VMware solutions is that is the furthest thing from the truth. This is a Workspace 1.8 administrative console, and you can see that it's really a very clean GUI. I've got integrations for things like Citrix published applications, mobile device management. There will be integrations in there you'll see in the final code for the hosted applications. The ability to add new applications. We even have our own cloud application catalog that can be leveraged. And inside of that cloud application catalog could be, perhaps things like, Google or Salesforce that I've been talking about. And so we've made it easy to make those connections, right? And you hear me talk about those things. And some of you that have heard me talk about Horizon before have heard this case scenario, but it came to mind for me last night because I experienced it. I had a new icon that appeared from VMware administration on my workspace, and it was for Google Apps. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. So I clicked it, having never logged into Google Apps before, right, except just, on my personal devices. And here I am, effectively a new user as far as this application is concerned. I clicked the Google Apps icon, and it opened up, and it actually created an account on Google Apps. So it federated me forward into my target application, created my username, created and synced up my passwords with what I have inside of my domain. And before I knew it, I was in there using it with a whole new persona. This is the type of fluidity that you're really able to give to your customers with Workspace. New user comes to work, they get dropped into the domain, right? They see the admin, he sets them up. Next thing they know, they hit a website, and anything they need is going to be provisioned to them in real time without having to remember 25 passwords and do all sorts of other things. And then here we can see that, we're able to set policies. We're able to, define, how the user is going to interact. And when it comes time to generate a report on all this, the administrator just simply clicks the Reports tab, and he's going to have a selection of canned reports that he can pull up. Anything from users to how the users are accessing files, how they're accessing applications, what are they doing. So he's able to give real-time empirical data back up to management, thus kind of completing the circle of life when it comes to the application. So now what we've seen so far is all of the new cool things, and I will assure you, this is only scratching the surface. There's a ton of other stuff that Horizon is doing. We've seen that it's going to be a tremendously seamless user experience, on top of the fact that it's going to be easy to support, easy to administer. So how do you get it, and how do you position it? Horizon 6 is going to be available in 3 editions, and we've kept this as simple as is possible to ensure that there's consistency across all of our suites and platforms and naming conventions. We want to continue to strive to make this as easy as we can for you to communicate to your customers. You're going to have Horizon View Standard. Horizon View Standard is kind of what it says, right? It contains the bits to stand up a virtual desktop infrastructure. We see there's going to be a huge play inside of Horizon Advanced. Horizon Advanced is where all the bells and whistles come in, right? Things like virtual SAN and the hosted applications and all of these neat and cool and groovy things all happen right inside of Horizon Advanced. So there's going to be a sweet spot for you there when you're talking about what's going to fit your customer's environment. But we also know that there are customers that are kind of sitting at that higher echelon where they may be talking about, how do I use this to, to deploy 10,000 desktops and 500 applications and all this, sort of craziness. And so for that, we have integrations with Horizon Enterprise, okay? So you're going to have 3 simple additions to call upon in order to motion this to your customers. So it's really not at all nearly as difficult as, trying to, pull individual bits, from different solutions. So what's included inside of each of these Horizon additions? Well, let's take a look. So we can see here that inside of Standard, like I said, keeping it pretty simple, very straightforward. Horizon View Standard will include Horizon View, right, to stand up the virtual desktop infrastructure. And you all heard me say this before, I'll say it again, is that Horizon View is probably by far the easiest virtual desktop infrastructure in the world to stand up, okay? So high levels of success, easy way to communicate to the customer, everybody's happy, you look like a hero, it's good stuff. In addition, you also get the licensing for the hosts that you need to run those desktops on, okay? That's the vSphere desktop, okay, as needed. In addition, you get the ability to package thin applications, okay? So as I mentioned before, what this means in View Standard and what a thin app application does, let me just give you that case scenario one more time, is that would be an application, let's say, like Skype, right? And you don't want to install it on the desktop. You want to give it to people to use, okay? A thin app application can do that, and you can even deliver it on a USB stick, however you want to do it, and it will not install on the machine. It just runs on its own. But it's important to know that thin app application needs to run, okay, or to be activated on top of the same type of platform that it was created on. So at this time, that's going to be Windows to Windows. So if they, capture it on a Windows machine and they package it up, they need to run it on a Windows machine. Okay? As you saw in my example with the Notepad++ that was showing there, it said, you can't run this because that was a thin app application that was captured on Windows, and I was trying to run it on a Mac. Okay, so it said, no, I can't do that. It would have run it on a Windows machine, but not on my Mac. So that's the restriction with a thin app. Now, customers go up to advanced. You can see they get all kinds of new cool stuff, right? We add, hosted applications. So now they've got the ability to do the RDS hosted apps. So now they can not only deliver the thin apps, but they can deliver those cross-platform applications. So if they want to take, Skype or Notepad++ or Access or Excel or whatever, Internet Explorer, whatever it is, and they want to publish that and make it available to their iOS, Android, Mac users, whoever they've got connecting to it, they can do that. Okay, that comes in advanced. In addition, they get the additional functionalities inside of Workspace, all right, for the application catalog, right? Things like, integrating the remote desktop streaming applications, the ability to integrate SaaS applications, okay, things like, again, Google and Salesforce and ADP or whatever it is, the ability to drop those applications, the thin app applications, into that workspace so people can trigger them as needed, and the ability to integrate with Citrix XenApp. Okay, so there's another whole host of items that are added inside of Advanced. In addition, they also get virtual SAN for the hosts that are running their end-user compute platform. So not only are they getting the seats that they need, the applications that they need, they're getting license for the hosts for the compute, that they need, and they're also getting licensed for the for virtual SAN for those hosts that are providing this service. So we've given one SKU that you can call upon that gives your customers pretty much everything they need inside of that advanced tier to get going, right? There's very little that they're going to see about Horizon that they can't do inside of advanced. Right? So that's why we see there's such a huge sweet spot here, okay? Now, we move up to enterprise. Enterprise has, even more stuff, right? Sure, you've got the thin app applications, you've got hosted apps, and the Zen app and SaaS, and you've got, virtual SAN. But in addition to that, you're getting Vcenter Operations Manager for View, okay, the thing that I was showing you to be able to, track and have full insight into the environment so that you can see the desktop, the individual application, whatever you need. In addition, you're also getting the operations dashboard inside of Vcops so that you do like health monitoring and analytics and all of that. And then at the very top there, you see that we've also added Vcenter orchestration into this. What does that do? I'll give you the quick rundown. Vcenter Orchestrator is probably the least publicized, coolest tool your customer will ever see. It allows them to create kind of that anything as a service type environment. I have a new user. All I want to do is create a new user and have all of this stuff happen. And I want them to get desktops, and I want them to get applications, and I want them to get, logins and keys and this and that, and, all sorts of access to anything that they need. Vcenter Orchestrator gives you that capacity to be able to plug in and create true forms of automation and orchestration across the virtual environment. You can see why that's going to be especially critical for those enterprise-type customers. All right? They have a lot to do in a very short amount of time. Draw your attention back, like I said, to advanced. I think this is really going to be a sweet spot when we talk about customer placement, because it gives them everything they need to really get up and running and position this. Again, we look at the bundles. There are 3 bundles: Horizon View Standard Edition, Horizon Advanced Edition, and Horizon Enterprise Edition. Okay? And, these standalone products, go in addition to that, right? You're going to have things like Horizon Mirage, right? If, the customer wants to, just take that or just, use Horizon Mirage for upgrading desktops, if they want to, just purchase the Horizon View Standard add-on, these are all going to be available. However, the best bang for the buck is going to be inside of the editions. So I think that we can see here that, what we're delivering, the vision of what VMware is delivering is really about, creating, this client server to mobile cloud end-to-end infrastructure that you're going to be able to communicate out with your customers. You're going to be able to talk about, like we said, you're going to be able to talk about things like VDI and not have it come to a screeching halt when the conversation comes to storage cost. You're going to be able to provide them with, a customized storage solution that comes prepackaged right inside of the bundle. When you've got a customer that may be wanting to adopt Apple devices, or they're wanting to, start using, Android for field reps or whatever it is, you don't have to shy away from the conversation because you know that they use a lot of Windows apps. With the application streaming, you're able to connect those bits and to make it to where, they have a clear way to connect themselves back into this infrastructure, right? If you have a customer that maybe all of their stuff goes offline, right? We didn't talk a lot about it today, but inside of Horizon Mirage, we've made tremendous new advancements in our ability to now support Windows 8.1. So we're even well in advance of the migratory path of most of our customers. Where they might be going in the next year or so, we're already there. So when your customers are making an investment in VMware, they're making an investment in you. You're able to communicate that clear value that you've already got the ideas in place. You've got the 2-year, 5-year plan for them for how you're going to maintain being their trusted advisor as their end-user computing environment progresses. All right? So across all of this, like I said, our goal, the vision, is to create something that's holistic. It is friendly to the environment that it's being in, and we're able to leverage the current investments that the customer has made and expand them out from there. With that, I would like to thank you all for joining today, and I'm going to be stopping the recording at this time. And what I would ask